Okay, yeah, thank you. Good afternoon to all the participants and the speakers for this program. What I will do is that I will be just initially, as Bharat sir has already highlighted the concept of RECP, how it is useful and what are the various methods. What I will do is that I will spend some time in establishing the case, like why RECP is very much relevant it is relevant for us to take it forward in the industry. And then just a brief RECP concept, as Bharat sir has already covered. I will not spend much time there. But also what I will do is that I will highlight some of the sectors where we see a lot of potential for RECP interventions, where we did a mapping study for more than 70 sectors to identify where the RECP can help maximum benefit. And then RECP audit, how to conduct it. And last, I want to share two of the tools which we have been using to conduct our RECP related studies, like material flow cost accounting and life cycle assessment study, on how it helps the company or the industry to view their environmental impacts and reduce them by taking necessary RECP measures. Just a moment. Yeah. So if I talk about material consumption in India, like if I see, India is one of the largest material consumer in the world. Like if I talk about last 4 years, 4 decades, where we have seen that material consumption has grown substantially by almost 7 times. Like we can clearly see that this increasing trend of material consumption is because of how we are moving from a agriculture dependent economic country to more to the industrial society, where we see that the manufacturing, consumption in the domestic level, commercial level, all those things are increasing. But moving forward, we see that this material consumption is expected to double from the current levels by 2030, because there is a significant focus on economic growth, where we are talking about infrastructure, then industrialization with Atmanirbhar Bharat. We see that more and more material consumption will increase in India. And also, like if I say, though our absolute consumption in terms of material is third largest in the world, but if I talk about per capita consumption, still it's on the lower side, where our consumption is around 7 tons per capita. And if I talk about global average, it was around 10 tons of domestic material consumption. Also, if we see in India right now, GCPC as a government organization have been working extensively on promotion of resource efficiency and cleaner production. But at a national level, for example, in India, we do not see such policies or initiatives practiced by other state governments also. Like GCPC is one example where definitely it has a lot of potential if it is extended to other states also. But still, we see that the RECP as a concept has not been promoted by various governments. Also, but the good thing is that recently MOEFCC and Government of India, they have announced a national resource efficiency policy, which is in draft stage right now, and they have highlighted why resource efficiency is important as a nation. And also they have highlighted certain sectors like automobile, construction, where we see that definitely in bringing in the resource efficiency part, we will see substantial improvement. Now, if I talk about resource efficiency, the previous slide I talked about the absolute numbers in terms of material consumption. But one indicator which was also highlighted by Bharat sir was on the resource productivity indicator. Now, if you see India's resource productivity, we have improved substantially, which is to produce $1 of economic output, how much material we are consuming. So if you see from 1980 to the current level, we have substantially improved, which was around 0.464, the resource productivity indicator. We are now around, at 2016, we are around 1.13. So definitely we are seeing that the resources which we are using, we are doing better in terms of conversion efficiency, or usage part, or maybe some other measures like recycling or reusing we are introducing. And because of that reason, we see that the resource productivity has improved. And also one other reason, maybe the I would say economic structure, where service sector becoming more and more prominent, we see that the resource productivity is getting improved. So definitely we have seen that the resource productivity is improving. In last 3 decades, it has improved by 2.5 times. But when you compare with some of the other countries, like some of the OECD and European nations, we are definitely not better. I would say we still have a lot of potential to improve our resource productivity here. Just to give an example, we are currently at 1.1. If I talk about Germany and other states like United Kingdom, Japan, all those, the resource productivity numbers are much better. So this indicates that our resource productivity, though we have improved substantially in the last 3 decades, but still there is a lot of potential for us to improve and generate more economic output with what material we are consuming. So here the role of resource efficiency, the cleaner production comes into prominence. Now, if I talk about from the industries, MSME and industrial sector as a whole, Government of India has already committed to sustainable development goals, where under each indicator, like all the goals which are there, two important goals where we see the role of resource efficiency in cleaner production is definitely with respect to goal number 8, where we talk about decent work and economic growth, where target 8.4 is primarily talking about how we can improve resource efficiency in consumption and the production part. Similarly, the 12th goal, which is responsible consumption and production, here it talks about specifically more on the natural resources, sustainable management and use of natural resources. So here as an industry, as an MSME sector, definitely all the initiatives which we'll be taking will help the country to meet these targets here. Now, in line with the global phenomena of moving from, I would say, end of pipe solution to a more integrated management of the resources, pollution, etc., we are seeing the trend getting shifted in the policy making also. With this, Government of India has introduced resource efficiency policy, where NREP, it aims to implement resource efficiency across all the resources, including biotic and abiotic resources, sectors and life cycle stages. So here, if we see the primary things which the NREP talks about is first, what is the scope of natural resources efficiency policy, and it encompasses all the resources and materials which we use as a nation here. Also, what specific things the policy talks about is on the indicators, that we will have certain specific indicators where we will measure our progress in terms of how efficiently we are using our resources. And also, they are saying that to increase the resource efficiency in various sectors, the Government of India will be introducing some of the policy, regulatory and market instruments. Like GCPC is a good example, where in the Gujarat industrial policy, if you refer, they have, like Bharat Jain sir has highlighted, they have started giving the incentives for implementation of cleaner production measures, resource efficiency measures, even for common facilities project, whether at industrial cluster level or a park level, we implement certain common facilities like effluent treatment plant. But in Gujarat, you will find that they are giving incentives for even a common boiler project, where if you see in the other states, they are just talking about right now in terms of R&D centers or CETP. But Gujarat, because of GCPC initiatives, is going step ahead as compared to other states also in terms of incorporating resource efficiency cleaner production in the industrial policy of the state. Also here, the policy also highlights that the role of industry and stakeholders is critical to achieve those targets here. But the thing is that right now resource efficiency policy is focused on certain few sectors, but definitely depending on the success and the maturity which we will have, we will see that it will be implemented at a wide scale, and we will see much more impact in different sectors. Now, we have seen the transition happening in the country, before the Air Pollution Act or Water Control and Prevention Act, which was introduced. More of the approach was on the ignore pollution, or maybe we will address at the end of pipe, or that was sort of a objective, I would say, or the intent of the industry. Like I would not say concern, but I would say that it was lack of awareness that how our operations are impacting. But as interventions by various international organizations, government departments, and also some of the acts which were introduced later in India, like Environment Protection Act, Environmental Impact Assessment, what we have seen is that right now in India, we have moved from I would say, a 2 or 3 part at end of pipe treatment or dilution and dispersion to becoming more proactive, and we are focusing right now on RECP, or I would say resource efficiency and cleaner production. So here, if you see, like as Bharat Jain sir has already highlighted, resource efficiency in cleaner production is nothing but producing more with less resources and lesser pollution. So that is the ultimately the outcome of implementation of resource efficiency and cleaner production measures. Now, what at CII we have done is that we have understood how this policy and regulatory landscape has evolved over the time. And definitely, if you see, the policies have come depending on certain events which have happened, like air and pollution, water act were there because of the conference on environment, and then subsequently the acts were introduced in India. Then we saw some of the unfortunate tragedies and like Bhopal gas tragedy and some of the environmental pollution related cases. And we saw that Environmental Protection Act came into the picture. And then subsequently, we saw that rising waste problem with respect to hazardous, municipal solid waste, etc. We saw from 1998 to 2007 or current level, we see that many of the management rules for waste like hazardous, biomedical waste, municipal solid waste, all that came into picture. recently, like if you go back to a few years, the new policy which were there on the waste management, the government of India has specifically recognized the co-processing as one of the pillar where we can directly take waste to the cement plants and try to dispose it there, because they have a tendency, like cement plant as a process, they can capture or take waste and undergo the combustion and can be used as a fuel. So definitely what we are seeing is that because of such events and such initiatives like by UNIDO, GCPC, etc., we have seen that there is a transition from, I would say, where we talk about end of life solution to more integrated approach towards environmental pollution, and where energy efficiency, water consumption, waste management, all it comes into the purview of RECP here. Now, why RECP and MSME is important? Definitely, all of you will agree that there is a significant potential which exists for improvement in MSME, because the thing is that many of the industries or the clusters which we are operating have been established some 20-25 years back. And what has happened is that with time, there is a technology obsolescence which has come, and it is a common phenomenon in Indian MSMEs. Just to give you a few examples, like if you go to any MSME, like where we have done many energy audits, we saw that the motors, the pump sets which are running are at least 10 to 15 years old. Okay, and the efficiency of those pump sets, because of the design restriction then, was around 45-50%. But today we have pump efficiency up to 90%, which has been provided even for a smaller HP or a smaller capacity pump. So definitely there is a lot of improvement. Also, what we've seen is that there is a lack of penetration of modern and efficient technology commonly, which has been observed. Like in Ankleshwar, if you go and see many boilers, they do not have a latest generation burners, or I would say sometimes you will not find economizers installed for the boiler where they can recover the heat, or condensate recovery is not there at the plant. So these are all the challenges we have seen in the MSME sector. Definitely the lack of latest technologies like operational inefficiency, technology vintage, and resource intensive because of the technology part that is on the higher side. But at the same time, the profit margins, the sustenance or expansion to the quality-based markets like European markets, because of such restriction, is on the lower side. So definitely, if we focus on RECP, one thing is that we will save cost, our environmental performance will improve, and ultimately it will help us to become more competitive in terms of operations and management. And at the same time, we'll be able to compete with the global market. We have seen that in Ankleshwar and some other cluster like Nandeshwari, Vatwa, we have companies with a world-class manufacturing practices where they compete with global markets, and they are providing solutions and products to the global audience here. So definitely RECP as a concept is very important in MSME sector. Now, this was the, sorry for the font size, which is, I'm sure is very small here. But the key message which I want to give is that if you see the latest classification done by Government of India on the, by CPCB, sorry, on the categorization of industry on white, green, orange, and red, which was revised 2 to 3 years back, we've seen that for the certain sectors, like at least 50 sectors, we have seen that the pollution intensity in terms of air pollution, water pollution, and hazardous waste generation is on the higher side. But at the same time, from our experience of working with different MSME clusters, we see that the energy efficiency, water conservation, material conservation, waste management, clean manufacturing, and cleaner production practices are also on the higher side. So here, if you see the pollution intensity is on the higher side, at the same time, if we have such high intensity, definitely there is a lot of potential where we can work and try to reduce our pollution intensity there. So definitely with such measures on RECP, which Bharat sir has highlighted in water, energy, waste, chemical usage, like the checklist which have been mentioned there, we see that if we implement those, then definitely the pollution intensity, maybe today these companies are coming under red category, but because of the RECP measure which we'll be introducing, which will become sort of a business as usual phenomena in few years of time, and definitely the Government of India will revise the sectors and maybe they will come from red to orange category, like we've seen in current cases also, where many of the sectors which were initially in under the red category of pollution control board have been shifted to orange or to a green category, depending on the pollution intensity which they have been implemented. So these were some of the 40 sectors which I wanted to highlight in terms of pollution intensity and where we see a lot of potential. So this is some 30 sectoral which I have highlighted, where I feel that based on our study, we see that the scoring which we have developed based on RECP potential, we see that this 31 sectors out of 70 which are included under CPCB guidelines, we see that a lot of RECP potential is there for establishing the resource efficiency cleaner production cases there. Now, if you see, RECP has been implemented in Indian MSMEs. Definitely, you all must be implementing certain measures in one way or another. But what we have seen is that most of the technology upgradation projects have been focused only on energy. Okay, even though you implement certain projects for cleaner production, the thing is that somehow the industry is not able to highlight it, like what are the savings in terms of waste or how much waste have been avoided to landfill. So we see that though the industries have implemented a lot of projects in RECP, but still we do not have indicators. That is the reason we should establish indicators like highlighted in the previous presentation, that energy efficiency we should have an indicator, water consumption, wastage we should have an indicator. So any measure which we implement, we will be able to convert it into some success stories which can be shared with others and also highlight our achievements to our stakeholders here. So if you see implemented in industries in certain forms like energy, it is the focus on. Then water, in case of sectors where we see there is a lot of usage, water intensive sectors like textile, chemical, we see that water related measures have been implemented. Waste management through lean manufacturing, how much waste we can reduce, that has been implemented. Then renewable energy, WRI speaker will be taking detail on how renewable energy can help Indian MSMEs to become more cleaner and greener. But all of these RECP measures have been driven by cost savings and improvement in the operations. And what we've seen is that now, if you go some 25 years or 15 years back, the industries, if we say that someone is coming from pollution control board, like we want to measure this, or like even if as a CII we go, then if we ask for city or something like that, then they don't share any data. But what we've seen is that now industries have become more open, they want to improve and they share their concerns with us. And then we see that just not on the compliance part, they want to better the compliance parameters and have better numbers in terms of pollution intensity. In terms of pollution requirement, they want to improve further. So that is how we are seeing that how RECP or I would say approach to RECP has been changing in the MSME sector. But some of the key drivers which are there in RECP is enforcement of environmental legislations and policies. Then certain requirements from businesses like suppliers, they emphasize on having certain requirements like you should not use any solid or liquid fuel, or you should have a clean room practices. All those things, certain RECP drivers are there. And ultimately, the main important thing is the utility cost. Today, the utility costs are, in some of the industries are very high, and they have to, I would say, because of such utility costs, they are not able to be more competitive as compared to their other peers here. So that is the reason I would say RECP implementation in Indian MSMEs is very much important. Now, some of the key RECP initiatives which have been are done by government, like government-led initiatives like NMCP is one, where they have certain programs on lean manufacturing, certain green manufacturing programs have been included under NMCP. Then credit-linked subsidy scheme on upgradation of certain technologies. Then Z rating, zero effect rating by QCI under MOMSME. So that is a good rating system where many MSMEs are getting benefited by adoption of such rating here. Then MSME cluster development program by Government of India. Then Bureau of Energy Efficiency, promotion of energy efficiency and renewable energy in MSME clusters. So they are working with numbers of clusters in India and helping them to improve their energy efficiency. And last, definitely GCPC, Bharat Jain sir has covered. But some of the important things which GCPC is promoting are different tools for promoting RECP, like they have developed toolkits on how to conduct resource efficiency cleaner production, like in Dahej, in Vatwa, in Nandesri, they have implemented various projects with respect to improvement in industrial parks. So various initiatives have been implemented on RECP. Then financial institution, many schemes have been provided for implementation of RECP measures like SIDBI, 4E program, then SBI Energy Efficiency Uptake program. Then there are certain voluntary programs which focuses on improvement of resource efficiency and cleaner production. Now, if you see how RECP has been implemented in MSMEs, then one, we can start with RECP audits, where we can look at material, energy balances, waste audits, and lean manufacturing. Then we can go, if we have achieved certain measures by implementation of RECP audits, we can definitely go for some rating and certification like Green Co, Z rating, ISO certification in terms of 14,001, 50,001, life cycle assessment standard. So various rating and certification we can adopt. And to ultimately to implement this RECP in MSMEs, we require certain tools so that MSMEs do not have to spend much time in identifying measures, but if they implement such tools, which become a continual basis, then definitely they can improve the RECP performance here. So some of the tools are MFCA, material flow cost accounting, LCA, chemical leasing, industrial ecology, green chemistry, etc., which can be implemented by MSME cluster all as a sector here. But two important tools which I thought I will cover because considering our experience in MFC and LCA, I'm just sharing two examples on how this concept can help industry to improve their RECP performance. Now, first, I will talk about RECP audit. This has been already covered by Bharat Jain sir. So how you can start the RECP audit? One thing which is there definitely, you should start with first overall input and output balance in terms of material, energy, waste, products, etc. And then with the checklist which you have or technology mapping exercise which you will do. And also sometimes you can compare your performance with the benchmarks which are available. And you can see where are the opportunities for improvements are. So you can undertake energy mapping, material mapping, water consumption, waste mapping, then analysis of water and air emissions and see whether you are meeting the compliance or how much you are below the compliance requirement. All those things you can do. And then once you do this, you will be able to identify where are the opportunities for improvements are there. And once you implement or plan to implement, you can do the necessary feasibility analysis in terms of what is the technical feasibility, financial feasibility in terms of payback period or internal rate of return, all those parameters you can do. So this is the RECP audit, which definitely like just not conventional energy audit, but you can move from energy just to energy to incorporating many more measures in your overall RECP audit. One tool which I wanted to cover was on material flow cost accounting. So this was a pilot project which we did with UNIDO in 2017, where we piloted this concept called as material flow cost accounting, which has been extensively practiced in Japan and some of the European countries to improve their material productivity in the industry. So what we did was we piloted this concept in two sectors. One is on the engineering, 5 units, and then food and beverages, 5 units we piloted. The focus of this project was to first do the material flow cost accounting, understand where the companies are losing money in terms of material, highlight where are the wastages happening, and subsequently, once you identify the wastages, you have to suggest measures on how they can reduce it. And then ultimately focus on improvement like reduction, material conservation, yield improvement, all those parameters we focused on. And this program was supported by UNIDO, and we had our MFC expert who supported this program where he guided us on how to do an MFCA. So the approach was initially started with.
Atik, hi. You have about 5 more minutes.
Yeah, sure. 5 minutes. I will quickly close. Yeah. The approach was that we initially focused on capacity development. We did the training program at the industry. Then we explained them what is expected in the material flow cost accounting. So we handholded them, created certain systems to monitor what are the material wastages because they were not measuring it. That we did, and jointly with them we identified opportunities to improvement and then quantification of savings and ultimately the implementation part. So it was a new concept. It took 2 to 3 months for implementation, and because of the collaborative approach with the plant team, we were able to execute the project. So this is one case study which I wanted to include. This is a case study from a storage solution manufacturing company where the office stationery, the storage solutions they were manufacturing. So what as a first step we did was, you can see this Excel sheet which is on the back side. We developed a material flow for each process. So what we did was, there was different processes like blanking, direct punching, press shop, pre-treatment, powder coating. So for each process, we identified what were the inputs, what were the outputs. Now the outputs we measured not only in terms of products, but also in terms of wastages. In inputs, not only we included the raw material part, but even for the consumables like lubricating oil, or packing material, which often we miss, and we just focus on the raw material part we were missing. So all those parameters we included in our flow model, and we measured the productivity here. So first, you can see that this is the CTLL process. We saw that these are the different materials which are going as an input, and these were the wastages which were getting generated. So this was the input which were around 282 tons as a steel input, and the wastages in terms of steel, the material losses were around 4 tons. So this is a good, I would say, a very high amount of material losses which were happening. So what we did a detailed analysis to understand where are the major scrap getting generated. So So initially, when we were having a discussion with them, all of the plant management thought that the major scrap generation is happening from a press shop. But what was happening is that we found that the major losses are happening at the turret punching section, because we process-wise we measured the scrap generation here. So what we did was the turret punching was generating more scrap as opposed to thought of press shop, which is a major contributor. But what we did was subsequently we proposed certain kaizens on how they should cut the product and how some excess modification in the machine we suggested, and they were able to save the material losses which are happening. In addition to that, what we also found from our material flow cost accounting is that the storage solution, once their product are manufactured, they were shipping it to Australia. Okay, because this was an export-oriented unit which was situated in SEZ. What was happening is that in case of certain missing item, like you missed one board or you have certain damage which is going directly to the customer. So what was customer doing? They found that they opened the box, out of 10 panels, 9 are okay, but 1 is damaged. So what they was that they were reordering the missing or damaged item. Now, if you see the component cost which was there, which was around 681, but because there was a reorder which was happening and it was to be sent to the customer immediately, the component cost was on the higher side, which was in range of 820 to 13,000, because they were sending the product via flight to the customer. But also what was happening is that this product was all the processes is such that you need to run one process in a day to meet the product requirement. Next day, you will have to set all the machines again if you want to manufacture a new product. So even for this one reorder item, they had to spend some 2 to 3 hours to produce it. But once the order is over, they were not having any extra material. All those things were getting repetitive. So what was happening is that there was an opportunity cost which was happening to the company, which was around 1,30,000. So what was the suggestion was that we suggested them to include the quality check before the dispatch, and they were able to save certain amount of money here. So this was the component cost and replacement study which I have included, which you can go in detail afterwards. This was similarly for Beverage Company. We did the MFCA, and this were the results. So here the importance was that the productivity which was measured by the plant was only focused on juice which was there being manufactured by them. But there was a lot of water consumption, steam consumption, because it is a food and beverage company. A lot of water is getting used in CIP and other places. So once we see the resource productivity with respect to overall material input, then it was just 65%, not 98%. So this is how MFCA brings a new concept on how you can use your resource productivity and bring new insights to the case study part. So these were some of the suggestions which we did to them by identification of waste and how they can improve it further. The last, I will take 2 minutes. They just need to conclude, and then maybe, sorry for the delay part, but just last 2 minutes. This life cycle assessment study right now has been done by various industries in India, where the focus is to how they can improve the environmental performance across their operations, not only their operations, but even right from cradle to gate analysis. So this was a LC study which we did for a glass manufacturing company. They manufacture perfume bottles for the various cosmetic industries here. And this was the glass manufacturing process where it starts from raw material extraction, then melting at the furnaces, getting the bottles in required shape, then engineering to provide strength, and then packing and sending it to finished goods warehouse. So what we did was we did an LCA study first as a cradle to gate analysis. But here, like as you know, the glass is infinitely, I would say, recyclable. So what is happening is that the glass can be recycled back into the furnace and for our distributor. So what will happen? Any impacts associated with batch house and raw material will be avoided if we recycle glass into our processes. So what we did was we did an analysis to see if we go from recycling to glass, how much impacts will reduce. So with just 25 to 30% of recycling, we will be able to reduce our impact across different environmental categories like climate change, ozone depletion, in range of 13 to 30%. So this was depending on the percentage of recycling which we assumed for conducting our study. And also what we did was to highlight how renewable energy component will help them reduce various environmental impact. If they increase the renewable energy consumption to 20%, all the impact categories they will be able to reduce from 6 to 15% across the major impact categories here. So right now, I guess syndicate impacts will also highlight on the LCA for the products which you have done. But definitely this LCA as a concept is very, I would say, is being promoted by various industry, and you will see that MSME sector, industrial sectors will be adopting it in near future to improve their environmental performance. To summarize, RECP provides a great opportunity to reduce environmental impacts, but many tools are already available where MSMEs can adopt it, like Z, Green Co, MFCA, quality tools, supply chain support. And also, there are various programs which have been done by international organization, national organization, which we can, I would say, take leverage of and implement RECP measures here. And other than that, some banks have also loan instruments for RECP products, which can be adopted by MSMEs here. So RECP implementation ecosystem is available in the country, and CII would be glad to support MSME if they are interested in any of the tools which I have highlighted here to take it forward. Thank you.